Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to what are we calling Common Censored Live? Common Censored Live. Common Sense is the name of our podcast. This is the live version. Thanks for joining us. You guys are all wonderful. I want you to know you're good enough. You're smart enough. Gosh darn it,
people like you.
People like you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Please share this. Let people know we're excited to join with you, hang out with you. This one, I think will be a good time. This will be a good time because I know people are struggling out there. This one's going to be fun. All the rest have sucked. This one, awesome. No, we love hanging out with you. So please share this. Let people know. Hit the thumbs up. And as every week, we are doing this week for a cause. You can go to youtube.com/momentofclarity if you're on the Facebooks, and you can share it. And not just share it, but do the donate. Hey from Sweden. We already got the Swedish people here. So youtube.com/momentofclarity. You can hit the $ and donate, and all of the proceeds, every single dollar, none of it goes to us. It all will this week will be going to Black Alliance for Peace. We hadn't done a good people of color cause recently. No, that's not true. We've done.
That's not true.
But
well, and also these aren't like disparate things. Like Veterans for Peace, that includes BIPOC. Mutual aid organizations include BIPOC.
You are wrong. I talked to the head of Veterans for Peace recently. He said no black people, none at all. He was very adamant about that. So,
oh my God, someone please take this seriously and then angrily email Veterans for Peace.
And send them the clip. They'll be like, Lee Camp's spreading the rumor you guys don't accept black people.
Oh my God. So Black Alliance for Peace, folks might be familiar with it if you've seen, if you're familiar with Ajamu Baraka or Margaret Kimberly or Netfa Freeman. They all work with Black Alliance for Peace. You might have seen them on Lee's show. Or
on Eleanor's show. See how we did the cross hands there? Yes, I've had them on Redacted Night VIP. They all do amazing work. I will read the quick mission statement of Black Alliance for Peace so you can know what you'd be donating to. And even if you can't donate, you can look them up after the show. Or if you're not watching this live, you can look them up. Black Alliance for Peace seeks to recapture and redevelop the historic anti-war, anti-imperialist, and pro-peace positions of the radical black movement through educational activities, organizing, and movement support. Thank you, Rhonda. Organization. It doesn't say that in the mission statement. Just don't, Rhonda. We love you. You're not in the mission statement. Okay. I don't want to get that confused. Organizations, individuals in the alliance will work to oppose both militarized domestic state repression. What? Here in America? Never. Okay. And the policies of destabilization, subversion, and the permanent war agenda of the U.S. state globally. So there you go. Thank you, Rhonda, for being the first to donate.
Anybody else have Help Me Rhonda playing in their head right now, or is that just me? I'm sorry. You must get that all the time.
Hey, Chris. Chris says, hey, Lee Camp. So we're doing that. We're also going to be talking about a lot of issues going on in the world.
Don't hit the desk.
I like hitting the desk.
No, I know, but the desk is connected to the mic stand, which is the transference of audio of the shake.
But what you don't understand is before you came in the room, the desk wronged me, and so.
Well, then you take care of that later.
Okay, we're gonna deal with that later. So I thought I'd start with a bit of I don't know if it's philosophical, maybe philosophical. Yeah, I'll go philosophical. A question that I'm posing to you guys, the viewers, and I'd love to hear your answers. I hoped, and I did Redacted tonight on this, that the pandemic shutting everything down, not that I was rooting for things to be shut down, but once things were shut down and the highways in LA were empty, I mean, for God's sakes, if that's not fucking crazy, then nothing is. You could
hear birds around the 405.
You could hear birds. There were birds, folks. Fucking fly flies were everywhere.
If you're not familiar with the 405, just imagine the freeways that they show you in movies that are like when they're talking about like the spread of the virus of humanity. That's what the 405 looks like. It's just like this wide expanse of bullshit progress, and then human progress, and that's always that no matter what time of fucking day it is, it's always bumper to bumper fucking traffic, and it's just.
So you don't have any experience with this, right?
No.
And I had hoped this would make a lot of people kind of realize our shared humanity and what our like consumerist, unfettered capitalist society was at the heart. You'd stop. You'd have to stop and think about it because everything changed overnight. And, maybe there's a little bit of that, but for the most part, no. People just said, I'm broke and I'm going to be evicted. Can we stop this? So I'm wondering, maybe some of that awareness, some of that awakening, some of that, holy shit, what am I? What's my place in the world? What are we fucking doing here? Some of that will happen once the pandemic opens up, ends, and the society opens up even more. And, people can, let's say, hug again. I'm not a big hugger, but I've heard of them. And,
You've heard of hugs or huggers?
Hug. Hugs.
Hugs.
I've heard of them. People can hug again, and they can be a part of a community again. Will that make people realize how important that stuff was? Like, are we going to see a societal shift as we get past this, which might not be for 6 months or a year? Mako says, yeah, right. Very succinct. Thank you.
So the question is, are we going to have some sort of like epiphany?
Yes. Societal awakening, cultural mindscape realignment.
I have to say that I think some of this is already happening. And I also think I'm going to start by quoting a friend of mine who unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But she said that, some folks are just going to die wrong. And I think that, with in the
you don't mean die in a wrong way, right? You don't mean like, holy shit.
Thank you, Tony.
A bird shat on his head and then that caused him to trip and then he went head first into a poisonous frog. You don't mean like die wrong like
that's
that.
That's dying wrong? I think that's dying right. That sounds amazing.
Okay. Well.
And this is something that I think is like on the journey of our organizing is something that we always have to struggle with. And I still struggle with this too, is that you're not going, there's never going to be this great big moment where everyone's like, yeah, fuck war or like, fuck capitalism. There's not going to be this mass epiphany. And so that's the first thing. But the second thing is that I think that this is already happening in a lot of places and for a lot of people, because again, like we've talked about before, this pandemic has stripped the facade of capitalism for so many people who weren't paying attention earlier or hadn't really thought of it on this in these terms, but it's really done that to the point where people are looking around them and being like, oh wait, the system wasn't built for me, or the system isn't structured
doesn't give a fuck
shit.
Right, doesn't give a fuck about me. Exactly.
Right. So I think you do see this happening. There are more and more folks that are angered by the system, and there are a lot of folks that are not swayed, for instance, by the election of Biden and things like that. So I do think that this is happening in terms of whether I do think, and I think we were talking about this too, that that there are going to be people like the first time we have a live show again, people are just going to be hugging randomly. Like, you're just going to have people walking up to be like, hi, you're at the show too? Let me give you a hug.
That's the hope. Oh, we're all humans.
Right.
Look at all these humans together.
And it's going to be like everyone's like,
people have been doing
on,
people are doing that Trump rallies for
everyone's
months.
on like collective Molly and like just thinks like, oh, how great is it that we all exist? And how great is it that like, oh, you're here, I'm here too. Let's give each other a hug. I think, yeah, I do think that's going to happen. Just, like full transparency here, I have actually hugged a couple of people already.
What? You fucking criminal. You goddamn dastardly villain.
Dastardly villain.
Yeah. You're a hug criminal.
Why does it smell like eggs? Anyway.
Okay. Side note.
If folks are watching this on Facebook, you can donate. I'm making all kinds of tangents right now. You can make donations to Black Alliance for Peace. That's where all of our donations are going this week. you can make donations by going to youtube.com/moment of clarity.
It's actually a first glass of wine, folks.
It's not that. It's, here's the thing. We always do these at Sunday, at 8 p.m. on a Sunday. And not that I really like, it's just, I work like almost every day, but Sunday is kind of like a chill day for me in a lot of ways. And so my brain is slow to join the party.
Well, and also, not to brag, this is in no way a brag, but we tend to work all of the days, and so then you get to Sunday and the brain starts to shut down. So
True.
Were you in the middle of a sentence though?
I was just telling people that we were donating to Black Alliance for Peace this week.
Cool. Yes, all proceeds from donations go there. So even if you just chip in a couple of dollars, that would be awesome. And we really appreciate it. So we can move on to the unless folks have thoughts. I see some people saying they still give hugs. But unless people have thoughts on this topic, we can move on to something I was going to say about the Biden transition. All right. People seem done with this topic. I'm done. I'm done with humanity changing our minds and figuring out what the fuck's going on. I think we've given that enough time. Thank you, Real Life Jolly, which is how I would describe this conversation. Thank you, Real Life Jolly. Thank
you so much. And they're saying that they're going to
live show again. I can't wait. We are setting the date. 2023, June, I believe.
Stop it.
Okay, so let's move on to talking about the Biden transition team, which I'm going to go after more of their fucking how awful they are in the next Redacted tonight. But you guys have probably noticed things here and there about who he's picking for his transition team. His transition team then picks his cabinet and picks the people that are going to be involved in the Biden administration. So if those people are shitheads, then you know the fucking actual administration will be shitheads. You see where the writing on the wall, where things are headed. And so what the mainstream media, the way the mainstream media has been couching this in order to make us think these people are progressive, that they're going to do anything for real human beings.
Wow, thank you, Chaos Agent.
$50 from Chaos Agent. Thank you so much. And we're glad we can be the highlight of your week. But what the mainstream media has been doing is they've been talking a lot about how diverse his transition team and possible cabinet is going to be. This is the most, thank you, Real Life Jolly.
Thank you.
This is the most diverse group that we have ever seen. That's what they keep saying. Because, there's several women, there's people of color, etc. And Caitlin Johnstone put it best. I'm going to read her tweet. She's a great journalist out of Australia, but she does most of her stuff's on America because America kind of rules the world. So it's understandable she would focus on that.
Affects the rest of the world, I would say.
Okay, fair enough.
Also, just a quick little side note. Someone, circling back to the hug, someone suggested that hugging trees is a way to get your hugs in at the moment.
I actually go straight for the French kiss. Yeah.
How?
Yeah. I have a very calloused tongue.
Apparently.
Having gone down on many a tree.
Okay. I think we can move on.
You brought it up. So this is Caitlin Johnstone talking about how all the mainstream media is going, this is the most diverse cabinet, diverse transition team we've ever seen in the world. Thank you, Lene.
Thank you
for the donation. Caitlin Johnstone said, describing the possible cabinet and transition team, 0% oppose war, 0% oppose oligarchy, 0% oppose sociopathic intelligence agencies, 0% oppose internet censorship, 0% oppose the drug war, 0% oppose the police state, 0% oppose mass surveillance, 0% oppose the prison industrial complex, 0% oppose Israeli apartheid.
But other than that, we're okay?
Pretty diverse. Yeah. Does that sound diverse to you? Like a diverse group of all kinds of people coming in here?
But Lee, they look different.
Yeah, it's just you just go by all we go by is skin color. As long as you have the exact same mindset on all of the fucking issues that this country decides. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim. Yeah, no, I this reminds me of there was the MAGA, the not quite million MAGA march, where
yeah, folks, we actually went down to look at it. It was definitely less than 20,000. I'd say less than 10,000.
And there were people of color that were wearing MAGA hats and that were marching with the Trump people. And this reminds me of the idea that you're always going to find people of any identity, of any background, that are willing to, lick the boot of the oppressor and say it tastes like freedom. And that does not mean that it does. And it does not mean that they are representative of those people. So, yeah, I mean, it's disgusting. It's absolutely grotesque. And Jim, to answer your question, I will quote.
Thank you, Maki.
I will quote the Zapatistas, who said that we want a world where many worlds are possible. So in terms of where we could be otherwise, I'd say, we could be so many places otherwise. And this is also, the idea that the future, the future is emergent and it's also divergent. Like there are so many ways we could go. The end of capitalism is not something to mourn. The end of capitalism is something to be excited about, because the opportunities to build something so much better are manifold.
Thank you, Crizzy.
And there are so many things that are better. So thank you, Crizzy. So that's a little bit of a philosophical tangent. I believe somebody earlier said that the new name for this could be called Tangents with Friends, which I like. I like that name.
Can we call it Tangents with Friends and Whiskey and Revolution?
It's too verbose. Thank you, Lene.
Easy rocking the boat. Jeez.
I'm sorry.
Lene says Caitlin Johnson is racist and can't be trusted. Well, I'd be interested to hear more. I don't know that much about her.
I do know that a lot of her reporting has been incredibly solid. So yeah, if there's something else that folks can bring to our attention, please do.
Nick's saying we missed his donation. I'm very sorry, Nick. Oh yeah, $15 donation. Thank you, Nick. We're very thankful, despite some reason missing it.
Yeah, and
let's see. There's Jim.
How do you know where it is?
I don't.
Oh.
Sorry, Nick. Thank you, guys.
Well, I want you to know that
death to curtains. I think that a curtain world could work. It's just the problem is you need a bigger setup than we have, and you need the folds in the curtain to look like a stage. I've performed thousands of live shows, so I know how the curtain needs to look, and we just weren't getting it. It just wasn't the right folds in the curtain to look like a real legit stage kind of presence. And so, yeah, that's my problem with the curtain.
He feels very strongly about it. But thank you, Nick. I personally like my, you got like a map back there. You got, Bill Hicks, which is Lee's. You got shit there that humanizes it. A curtain is so, it's so dry, I feel. So yes, we are. I love that Nick trusts us enough that he's just like, fuck it, I'll give you some money. What are we doing? What are we doing? Thank you, Nick. I love it. We are doing.
Nick, this week is actually Slurpees Unlimited. It's a recent organization that gives me a lot of Slurpees. So
no, yeah. We're donating to the kitten mittens.
What are kitten mittens?
Do you remember the Always Sunny in Philadelphia episode where he's like, is your cat just so loud stomping around? Get kitten mittens. And it's like these little fucking like pieces of fabric that just like sit on like that are like attached to the cat, and the cat can't walk properly.
I think I must have missed that episode.
Okay. Well, somebody else is going to back me up here because
wonderful.
Somebody else has seen that episode and it's fucking hilarious and it's amazing. Anywho, we are donating to Black Alliance for Peace. So folks, if you are yes. If you are watching this on Facebook, go to youtube.com/momentofclarity, and right where you see the comment box. You can also donate, and proceeds are going to Always Sunny. Proceeds are going to Black Alliance for Peace. I swear I'm not tipsy. I'm just tired. Oh God. Although even if I were tipsy, who gives a shit?
Yeah, that is true.
Oh God.
Yes.
Thank you. It is a great episode. I agree.
All proceeds go into Black Alliance for Peace, and they do great work. If you're watching this later after the live stream is over, you can go look up their website and donate there. But yeah, thank you all so much for chipping in a couple of dollars. Let's see. Maki says she likes the black curtain. This has become quite an issue.
We are creating a civil war amongst the viewers here.
Maybe I should take a poll: curtain versus no curtain. I mean, not that I mind looking like one of those terrorist videos where they have the hostage there, but I definitely think it looked a little like that. But
Thanks, G-Birch.
I am a hostage of the American cultural hegemony, so that's the problem.
Curtain Gate continues.
Curtain Gate. Listen, it came from a place of love. Okay? I was trying to make a better show for you folks, and no one cares.
No, we care. So...
did you have any more? We can move on to another topic. By the way, we love when you guys throw in topics. So if you want to say topics, please comment with topics and we will address them. You don't just have to talk about what it is we're currently talking about. So please feel free to throw in things you'd like us to talk about. But do you have any more thoughts about this whole mainstream media liberal bullshit that this is the most diverse administration that anyone's ever seen? Kamala Harris is the first black woman vice president.
I mean, my thoughts. Well, she's the first female vice president too, isn't she?
Yeah, I meant those separately. First black vice president. First female.
I see. Thank you, RBU.
Say them all. Say them all.
No, I'm not. Are we on the cusp of revolutionary change, or are we doomed? Yeah. So this is, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. I think that we are. The system is clearly faltering, but the system is also very adept at going with the flow and being fluid and maintaining and holding on to power in the face of change.
Yeah, capturing everything that threatens it.
So I think that, it's important that we not look at, it's kind of like the way that I sometimes talk about it is that like some people will say, oh, look, thank you, Kathy.
Wow, $20. Thank you, Kathy.
Some people will look at it and say, oh, well, like oil and gas, like that's just not going to be economically viable. So we can just sit back and wait for that to not be economically viable at all. Well, no, you can't, because we don't have time to just sit back and wait. It's kind of the same thing with the system as a whole. It's dying.
Thank you, Real Life Jolly.
It's eating itself, which is true. But we also need to push it along and demand our rights and demand a better future, a livable future in the face of this downturn. So I think that both of these things are true at the same time, and I don't think. We're not doomed. We're also not saved. I don't think in terms of that sort of like dichotomy, that binary sense, because I think it's dangerous to think in these absolutes. I think that there's hope. I have hope, but no optimism, as I like to say. And I think that the hope that exists is the sort of jagged and raw hope that exists outside the confines of like, political slogans like hope and change and that kind of bullshit. I think the hope rests, and I saw somebody comment on organizing locally. The hope rests in organizing locally. The hope rests in us becoming the answers to our problems and not waiting for government or hoping that government, wakes up one day and gives a shit about us. So I know you wanted to say something, so jump in.
Well, no, I was going to ask you to, I know you've defined it before, but many people have not heard it. And I love your take on this. Why do you say you have hope without optimism? What is the difference?
So thank you, Nick. Jinx. So hope is, so I'll start with optimism. Optimism is the idea that everything is going to be okay. That
Thank you, Raymond.
no matter what happens, we're going to make it. Hope is the is the idea that you want everything to work out, but you understand that there's absolutely no guarantee that it will. And hope demands an action, right? Like, oh, I hope I'm going to, you know, make this high jump. I'm going to practice. Oh, I'm going to make this high jump. That's optimism. So you just kind of sit back and you rest on your laurels and assume that it's going to work out.
This is actually what Trump does, which he got it. I can't remember the name of the preacher, pastor, whatever it was who defined this. But Trump just says everything is going to happen that he wants, and he never lets go. So to him, he has won the election. And he will keep saying he's won the election. And a lot of times it works. He's done it throughout this, throughout his presidency, just saying, no, this is how it is. He, one of the big ones when he first got into office was he had the biggest inauguration ever. And he just keeps saying it. And eventually a certain percentage of people start to believe it. And it's this idea that if you just keep acting against reality, that some of it will happen. And so right now he's doing that with the presidency. I won. It's all a fraud. I won. And that's not real. It's not reality.
No, and I actually posted this today. There's an account on Instagram that I follow that I really love. And I wanted to answer the next question too. But this is a quote.
I'm going to take it down, but we can remember it.
I already forgot it. This is a well, because I didn't memorize it.
Oh, click it again.
This is
Jesus.
This is a quote from Miyamoto, who said, "Truth is not what you want it to be. It is what it is, and you must bend to its power or live a lie." So yeah, that's put simply, put plainly. And that's
so you're saying you don't have a what's it called, a goal board? What's the secret?
A vision board.
Vision board. You don't have a vision board.
No, I don't.
Okay. So
I have a board with different lines on it.
You can read the comment that I'm slowly drowning behind.
I can't help it's so tempting. Okay. Do you think that there will be any tangible differences if Dems win both Senate seats in Georgia? I'm going to let you take that one.
Well, so what Nick's asking is, for those who don't know, is the control of the Senate rests on these two runoff elections in Georgia that are happening right now. I believe the vote is early January. It's like January 5th or something. And it is, I think in both cases, it's basically a kind of fake Democrat, like a Republican light. John Ossoff is one, or Ossoff is one of them. And they're if this were the 1960s, they'd be Republicans, but now they're called Democrats. And it's them against some, psychotic Republican who's a fucking nutbag. And Nick's asking whether control of the Senate will matter that much in tangible results for the people. I think that, if I'm not one to support this, like, fucking tiny incremental change. Let's try and get the Democrats in the Senate so we can get $5 more in, like, but there could be a slightly bigger pandemic. The checks they send out could be slightly larger. There could be some slight differences here and there, but they are going to be slight. They are not going to be some massive change because the Democrats run the Senate instead of the Republicans. And that's why I'm against the two-party system in general. So yeah, you could see some slight tangible difference if the Democrats run the Senate after those Georgia elections. But
yeah, and I think that, to your point, like I can't remember who I was talking to about this. It might have been Eugene Purrier, who is a great.
It's called Breakthrough News.
Breakthrough News, yeah. It has a great show. He's fucking
amazing. Thank you, progressive lefty.
Yay, thank you. And was pointing out that the Democrats of today were the Republicans 30 years ago. So talking about them like they are the party of progress, or they're the party of the left, that's fucking horrifying to consider. But yeah, so it's important that we recognize the context that Democrats are winning and what have you. And of course, yeah, there are progressives, actual progressives, that will run on a Democratic ticket just to get into office. AOC, Ilhan Omar, like those kind of folks, who, by the way, are not very, incredibly left. They're just progressive. But I think it's important to recognize the context of these questions. So yeah, and good point. The progressive lefty, there are things happening again, like the corporate media like talks about the election and continues to talk about the election as if it's the only thing happening in the world. And meanwhile, of course, there are things going on that are incredibly powerful, whether they be good things like, Guatemalans setting fire to their Congress. Or
that actually happened, folks.
It actually happened.
When you're done watching this, look that up. The Guatemalans got so pissed they set fire to their Congress.
And there was a guillotine out there. Or, as the progressive lefty is pointing out, the bad things that aren't being covered, like drilling rights in the Arctic, which, is something that unfortunately a lot of countries are working to promote, be it, the US, Russia, China. So I think that, not only is it important to recognize the context
Thank you, Daniel,
of elections, but also recognize that there's a whole world happening outside of them.
I know. I know.
Yes, Daniel, no comment, just cash. That's cool. We're down with that too. So yeah, speaking of that, if there are any things that you are interested in us talking about that are outside the purview of the U.S. election, a friend of mine in Canada pointed out that she's so fucking sick and tired of hearing about the U.S. election. It's like the only
even in other countries.
I know, because they're because of the the inertia of the U.S. empire, other countries are stuck talking about it too. I mean, I'm still doing I'm still getting questions from folks in Sweden like, hey, what's going on in the U.S. and like, what's going on over there? Anywhere else? Let's talk about something else.
Well, to be honest, Americans' idiocy does impact the world a little more than Sweden.
No, I'm not saying that we should all just pay attention to Sweden. I'm saying that we should pay attention to the world. Yeah,
in general.
And also, Americans could learn a lot by looking at places like.
I like this. Huzzah says.
That's very true.
Yeah, and
no substance, just a snappy headline.
And Trump's perfect for that.
Although I will say, Biden was unintentionally hilarious during the election cycle as well, just because he is so fucking out of it. Did I lose you?
No.
Okay.
They were both unintentionally hilarious. Like, neither of them understand what they are or what they're seen as. By the way, everyone talks about Trump's hair and how ridiculous it is, which it is, and his orange fucking craziness, which it is. I tweeted about this, but I never saw anyone else cover the fact that for one day, Joe Biden had bright blonde hair and eyebrows. No, that's right. I'm not fucking kidding. I took a photo from a TV screen on CNN. Joe Biden walked out and gave a press conference, suddenly had bright blonde hair and eyebrows. And apparently the following day they realized it looked nuts and they took him back to gray. But how fucking insane is that? That's as crazy as Giuliani's melting face the other day.
Oh yeah, that was you had a great comparison there. I don't know if you just want to tell people or if you want to tell them to go watch your video.
Yeah, I talked about it with Graham Elwood on the other podcast I do, Government Secrets.
I have not read that book, if that is a book.
No, I haven't read it either.
Carry on. Sorry. I just wanted to answer the question.
So if you saw my Government Secrets with Graham Elwood, then you've already heard this. But Giuliani was melting a black toxic liquid off his face during his press conference. Everybody was talking about it. They were like, what the fuck's going on with Giuliani's face? And it's incredibly similar to The Fifth Element.
Thank you, Lene.
When what's the name of the actor who plays
who
plays the supervillain?
Oh, fuck.
And he like looks into the fucking, they'll tell us who it is, looks into the soul of dark evil that is this planet that just kills everything it touches. And when he's talking to it, black sludge just starts dripping down his forehead. And that is what Rudy Giuliani looked like. And I think it probably was the same sludge.
Yes, I think
Absolutely.
it was. It was the evil sludge.
Yeah. Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Thank you, Chris. And Austin.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you.
And
Thank you all.
Maurice.
Thank you all. To answer your question, Lene, Lene was asking how long till Kamala takes over. I don't know. How long can you prop up Biden? I mean, he's been propped up this long. It's like it really is like Weekend at Bernie's, but it's
thank
like
you, Chaos Agent.
Biden's. Chaos Agent, thank you.
Well, it's going to be similar to the Dick Cheney, George Bush scenario, where they'll trot Biden out and Biden will seem like the lovable president, the lovable front of the American empire. Hey, look how nice I am. I'm your old uncle. And that's what they'll do.
Super creepy.
And behind the scenes, I don't know that it'll be Kamala Harris, but it'll be a group of them, Kamala Harris being one of them, that are basically running the show, which actually, even despite the fact that Donald Trump is the opposite of that, right? He has immense control and doesn't allow anyone to run things outside of him unless they just get it behind his back, which is probably fairly easy to do because he doesn't read. He doesn't like the reading. He doesn't know. He has never looked at a fucking document for more than 3 seconds. There are articles about how his aides came in to try and teach him the Constitution because he literally didn't know it. And they got to the Third Amendment and his eyes glazed over and the meeting was over. Anyway, it will be similar to George W. Bush, Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney ran everything. George W. Bush was the so-called friendly face. I mean, many of us hated him, but the so-called friendly face that would walk out and go, well, it's like when you say that you fool me once and you can't fool me twice, something, fool, I can't be a fool. Like that guy walks out and everyone's like, oh, I'd love to have a beer with that guy. Oh,
that
gosh.
Is so
and
confusing.
That's what it'll be with Biden. And behind the scenes, it'll all be run separately. The Pentagon will do their thing that they always do, and the others will run their shit. And the exploitation of the American people will continue. It'll just be
Thanks, John.
Slightly less egregious. There will be a modicum of difference, but.
And by trusty sidekick, I assume you mean my wine glass. Which yes.
By superstar documentarian, he means Hard Road of Hope, which you can all watch at hardroadofhope.com. It's won all kinds of awards. Honestly, you'll love it. It's an hour long, so it's not going to take up your whole night. You just go and you watch hardroadofhope.com. It's fucking beautiful and amazing, and it's got everything. It's got the hard, cold, awful facts in there, and it's got the hope, and it's got everything.
Thanks. Thank you. My PR person. What was I going to say?
We were talking about the show of Biden and the behind the scenes.
Oh yeah. Well, and we've seen this, you brought up Bush, which is a great example. The system churns on regardless of who is sitting in the Oval Office, even if they're sitting there playing with crayons like Bush was, and Trump
literally was Sharpies.
I know.
Just playing with Sharpies.
So yeah, it's so clear that the machine does not need the figurehead to operate. And the people behind the scenes, it kind of reminds me of, years ago, I was sitting and talking to a producer friend of mine who had produced all kinds of incredible albums like, Tool and Soundgarden. And he said, no one, that was Lee hitting the computer.
Sorry.
He was, we're sitting at a bar having a drink. Remember sitting at a bar having a drink? And he said, all these people walking in and no one knows who I am. And he was saying it as kind of a nice thing, like he's under the radar.
Right.
But he's like, but obviously if I was, in Tool, or if I was, the public facing person of Soundgarden, I would be accosted whenever I go out. But the producers and the engineers are the ones who make those records possible. They are the ones who, press the press the buttons and like and are able to work with these artists to produce this amazing art. And that's not, not trying to say that they run the show or anything, but just to say that they are a huge part of what make these records possible. And so it kind of reminds me of that, if you've had like the 180 of like the very dark version of this, like the very like I'm trying to destroy the planet as opposed to make some cool art. You have the figurehead, you have the Bush, and you have the Trump, and you'll have the Biden, but then you have all of the people behind him that are making this machine work the way it is, outside of the purview of Bush, outside, which is why like when they told him about 9/11 and he's like sitting in this kindergarten class and he's just like, and he doesn't know what to do because he is not in control. Like, he's absolutely not in control. He was like, I thought I was reading C-Spot Run to a bunch of like 5-year-olds. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And it's so clear that the deep state does not require a president to run. So yeah, that's definitely going to be the Biden issue. Yes, in terms of some people, yes, Chris Cornell. I absolutely miss him. But our contributions tonight are going to Black Alliance for Peace. You can, if you're watching this on Facebook, y'all can go to youtube.com/Moment of Clarity, and you can donate by clicking on the $ that's next to the comment box.
They do wonderful work.
They're rad. They're anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, pro-peace folks. They do a lot of work with AFRICOM, or against AFRICOM, I should say, which is, the new scramble for Africa. Yeah, it's a really rad organization. So do throw some coins our way if you have the ability.
One last point I wanted to add about the basically the state continues to run no matter who the PR person at the front is. Trump, and I've covered this before, so forgive me if you've already heard it, but Trump has. Look, he's a catastrophe. He's a warmonger. He's a war criminal. He's all those things. I'm not denying that. He's actually dropped more bombs per year than Obama had, and Obama dropped the most per year than any other president. So it just keeps ramping up. So this is not to say Trump is, not trying to kill people. He doesn't give a shit. However, he has tried multiple times to bring the troops home from various places in the world: Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq. And each time he is thwarted by the military-industrial complex. And right now you have some of the Pentagon officials who have left the Pentagon so they can. Thank you, old shaved one.
Unshaven.
Old unshaven one. The Pentagon officials have come out and said, we are playing a shell game with Trump. We tell him we've removed the troops and we haven't, or we move them from one place to another, and we don't actually withdraw the troops. That is, people don't seem to realize how fucking scary and awful that is. That is the elected official, which, whether you love him or not, is Trump at this moment, not having control over where our fucking murder machine is administered around the world. And when he tries to bring them home, the fucking murder machine says no. No, we are staying there. We're going to keep our trained murderers there. And like, that is fucking crazy. Mm-hmm. And no one will talk about it. And the extent of them talking about it is people celebrating it, is these fucking gooey liberals on Twitter and on our mainstream media being like, Trump tried to pull out the troops, but it's dangerous to pull out the troops, so the military didn't do it. We win. It's like, are you fucking out of your mind? It wouldn't just be Trump. This would be the same for any president that was elected. You try and remove our military agents from anywhere around the world, and it does not happen. I mean, that is crazy.
Yeah. No, it's a complete bastardization of how our system is supposed to work. With the branches of power in government, but it's a corporate military power machine. It really is fascist.
All right, guys, real quick, if we get
don't hit the desk.
That was a light hit.
You keep hitting the desk to prove that you're not hitting the desk.
If we get, thank you, B. If we get $50 in the next 10 minutes, we'll stay an extra 10 minutes. So we'd love to get that. All proceeds go to Black Alliance for Peace. They do wonderful work. And thank you guys so much. Those of you who have already donated, you're incredible. You're amazing. And we love hanging out with you. And Nick has just put 20 in. Thank you, Nick.
Whoa, I just got all of these at once.
Thank you, Nick. And thank you, Underhill. And thank you, Luis. So we're already about halfway to the $50. Can't thank you guys enough.
Nick has an interesting non-election topic.
Are you going to read it out loud?
No, you're going to read it out loud.
Why is it my job? Plant-based diets and veganism in general is healthier for humans, better for the environment, better for the animals, and less expensive. Also, the worst food companies, example McDonald's, prey on minority populations. By the way, and Nick, you can correct me if we're wrong, I believe Nick said he's a chef. So he's speaking from a place of knowledge.
Nick, have you read The Third Plate? Just asking. Love that book. Anyway, I was just talking to a friend about it. But yes, absolutely. Humans need to eat an astronomically
Thank you,
less
Chris.
meat, for sure. And I think that there's a lot of here too. There's thank you
Sailing Prepper.
There's a lot of conversation here.
Thank you, Jen.
There's a lot of like nuance here too in terms of in terms of what this will look like, because there's conversations about like eating from where you live. And whoa, thank you, Louise, really appreciate it. And for instance, if we're looking at the indigenous people of the far north, the Sami, whose homelands are indigenous to the northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and parts of Russia, they herd reindeer and they fish. And if you've ever been to the far north of places like Sweden, not a lot of shit grows there.
Thank you, Maki.
And that is, of course, one more extreme example. It's very disruptive with the thank yous. I mean, thank you, but
you should like the
I do, and I love all these people for donating. Thank you so much. So there's nuance to be had there. Obviously, that's a very specific example, but also the idea of eating where you are and understanding that animals are part of the ecosystem, and the best thing to do for an ecosystem is to live with it. So this would mean, for instance, that all factory farms would be obsolete. That is just grotesque. It shouldn't be called factory farms. It's torture farming, as Lee has pointed out before. So it's really grotesque that is something that we do. We need to eat a lot less meat, and you're absolutely right. These sort of fast food joints prey on marginalized marginalized peoples and marginalized communities, and just like any other big corporation. And also the way that they're subsidized, like if you actually paid for all of the externalities that go into a patty, then one burger at McDonald's would be like $200.
Yeah, and
thank you, Arcola.
The average burger is 2 months of showering.
Yeah, in terms of the water usage.
Yeah, and yet when there's a drought in an area, they tell you not to shower. It's like, tell everybody not to eat meat, you fucking cunts.
Yeah. So so again, going back to that point, I think that it's a place of privilege. Like obviously, people that live. Well, I won't say that, but it's a place of privilege to say everyone can go vegan, because that's not true. It's not true in terms of health. It's not true in terms of where people live and how they live off of the land and with the land. So I think that it's important for us to look at this with nuance and not have this sort of purity absolutist perspective, while also understanding that things like torture farms and the extreme focus that our culture in particular has on meat is absolutely grotesque and horrific. So, yeah.
And I just wanted to go off of one thing you said that, factory farming. Look, I got a hate email from someone recently who clearly had watched our show, so they must not despise it, or they wouldn't have watched through the whole thing. But they got very upset that we said anything negative about meat. And here's the thing: is like, the way a lot of our meat in this country is made, and I know you said this, is fucking disgusting.
Horrifying.
Factory farming. Look, the way and I'm not saying they're equivalent in terms of their moral horribleness, but the way we view slavery in terms of how in terms of like, why were we ever doing that? We're going to have that same view about factory farming fucking, I mean, I'd love to see it 20 years from now, but let's say 50 years from now. It's 100 years. As long as we continue to evolve as human beings and continue to understand the morality of this fucking world, then there's no way we continue to be fine with an animal. And many of these are advanced animals, pigs, cows. These are not fucking mosquitoes. Like animals living their entire lives inside a cage they can't turn around in. That's how big it is. Like, that kind of shit is so repulsive. And so any discussion about meat needs to begin there. Then you can discuss outside of that how certain human beings do, might need meat or need some form of meat or those kind of things. But step one is get rid of fucking torture farming. It's crazy. And they have done everything to try and get people to not have this conversation right here. They have disallowed, made it illegal for people to film what goes on in these places. Because once people see it, once people take it into their fucking brain holes, then they go, I can't be involved in that. I can never watch that again. I can never be a part of that. Like, it's honestly, and if you are someone who didn't know this or disagrees with this, please go watch the videos. Just take them in. I'm not asking you to do anything complicated. Just go take in some of these videos and decide how you feel afterwards. And maybe you'll come back and be like, I feel the same as before. Eat all meat. Doesn't fucking matter. But just do that. Do that, and then we'll talk.
Yeah. And also, Tabby Cat.
Thank you, RBU.
Tabby Cat. Whoa, we're gone.
Oh my God.
I'm just gonna let that sit there for a second. But basically, the point that Tabby Cat is making is that
I'm still here.
The point that's being made here as basically is that, we also need to make sure that we're not just looking at personal choices that we're making. I lived in LA for 10 years and I can tell you there were a lot of vegans and there were a lot of people who drank, juice and shit, but they drank it out of plastic cups. And, the idea that, I can ride my Hummer around as long as I don't eat meat. It's really important. Or even if you do live off grid and live like Robinson Crusoe, it's important to recognize that the system as a whole, there are 100 companies that are responsible for 70% of all emissions. The U.S. military alone has the same greenhouse gas emissions as 140 countries combined.
And Bill McKibben fucking wrote an article about but that's not so bad. Bill McKibben wrote a whole pro-Pentagon article that, wow.
Yeah, no,
wow.
It's remarkable.
Wow.
So I think that, it's important to recognize that personal choices alone are not going to, it's not going to save the world. And we really have to look outward at it. We have to look at a systemic lens, through a systemic lens.
Thank you, Natheist.
Thank you, Natheist. And and I think, to your point, Natheist, that just kind of what I was trying to say earlier, but I got stuck in all of the other comments and thank yous that were popping off. There's the issue of hunting and of being as part of the ecosystem that we live in, traditional life ways and things like that. I think that that's an important conversation to have. And that doesn't mean that everybody needs to do it. That doesn't mean if a lot of people will live entirely off of, plant-based foods. But I think that this conversation about the fact that, we can't eat meat, we all have to be vegan. First of all, we're not all ever going to be doing anything. No one is just, we're never going to have that monolith situation. And I think that there's also a lot of opportunity to look at how we're living with the ecosystem. And that does include hunting. So, yeah.
Also, I challenge people who haven't tried some of these things, and I know they're not the best for you. They're not like eating fucking, organic green salad or something. But if you have a burger addiction or something, try some of these Impossible Burgers. There's other plant-based options, the Beyond Burgers. Just give it a try. See what you think. It might help you curb your kind of addiction to like endless meat, where it's got to be like every meal has loads of meat on it. Because guess what? The fake meat has gotten pretty good. It's not like it used to be where it was like a fucking old piece of a shoe. And they were like, no, this is fake meat. It's not like meat. And you're like, this literally says Converse on it. And they're like, it tastes fine. You just put more ketchup on it. No, it's not like that anymore. Give it a try.
Well, and yes, I highlighted this point from Nick because also this is very true. You know, the amount of meat that we actually hunt is a very, very minuscule percentage of the meat that we eat. And so again, this circles back to that point that factory torture farming is grotesque and should be abolished. In which case, the only way that we could get meat would be in much smaller quantities, which is how it should be. So yeah, that's all part of that conversation.
And I recently did a moment of clarity. You can watch it on this YouTube channel, youtube.com/moment of clarity. I recently did one on how a lot of this shit gets thrown out, especially during the pandemic. But even before the pandemic, they were throwing out millions of gallons of milk because people aren't drinking milk at the rate they used to. And you might think, well, why don't they just stop producing it? Because they get subsidized by our government. We, the taxpayers, fund them producing crazy amounts of milk. And so they turn some of it into cheese, but then that just sits in a warehouse. I mean, we're talking millions or maybe it's billions of gallons of milk that are just like thrown out so that they can keep torture farming these animals and keep producing the same amount so that they can get the subsidies. Like, that's how fucked late stage capitalism is. It's crazy.
Yeah. So we got a few minutes left. Thank you so much for all of your donations. Again, all of these donations are going to Black Alliance for Peace. So if you have a couple of bucks to throw their way before we wrap up tonight, that would be awesome. Yeah.
If you don't, no worries. As you can tell, we answer plenty of questions here. But if you have $2, throw it to Black Alliance for Peace.
Also, someone posted this comment, but regenerative farming, the idea of rotational crops and things like that, the way that we farm in this country is also really destructive. I mean, the whole reason that the Dust Bowl happened is because we had entirely destroyed the topsoil. So it's really important to look at the way that we farm too, and how, and this is why I recommend the Third Plate, because it talks about this as well, but how we farm and how we rotate crops and how we regenerate the soil so that it can continue to nourish us, because it is itself nourished. So I think that that's also a really good point and a really important conversation to have.
Absolutely. Let's see. Any in these last couple of moments? Any other questions? We do have a podcast. If you're enjoying this, you'll probably like our podcast. It's called Common Censored. It's free on all your podcast networks or platforms. And I have another podcast called Government Secrets with Graham Elwood. Eleanor has another podcast called Silver Threads with Carla Bergman. If you don't know Carla Bergman, she writes amazing books. So you can check out all of those. And honestly, you could have a new podcast from us almost every day of the week. So if you're looking for podcasts, we fucking got your back.
There's a great podcast. There's a great episode coming out this Tuesday of Silver Threads, my podcast with Carla Bergman. We have an amazing fucking conversation.
Thank you, Progressive
Lefty. We have an awesome episode with Clee Benally of Indigenous Action. And it's such a fucking good episode. Clee is fucking amazing. So please do keep an eye out for that on Tuesday. And thank you, Progressive Lefty.
That's the greatest compliment you can get, is when people ask that things be longer. You know, people ask me when Redacted Tonight was going to become daily, because we put out basically 2 shows a week. There's Redacted VIP and Redacted Tonight. And I was like, when you clone me times 5, because I can't fucking write all that shit.
That'd be cool. So. I'd love to have 5. Thank you. So Hard Road of Hope is my documentary. It's about West Virginia, and
you can get it right now.
You can get it at hardroadofhope.com. Thank you so much for everyone who's watched it and shared it. And it's an honor to share those stories.
Kinky's asking why I didn't read your super chat. What was your super chat, Kinky? I don't We try to notice.
There's so much going on.
There's a lot.
Sorry,
you
y'all.
don't see it from our side. We get more information.
It looks like this.
We get more information than you guys get, so it's kind of throwing it up. Adam is at while Kinky answers that question. Adam is asking, "Are you still pals with JFOD?" JFOD stands for John F. O'Donnell, who's a former correspondent of Redacted Tonight. Yes, I am. JFOD is doing great. You can check out his podcast. Thank you. Thales?
I was going to say Thales.
Okay.
Thales.
Thank
you, Nick.
John F. O'Donnell. Thank you, Nick. John F. O'Donnell's doing great. And you can check out his podcast. The best way to find him is check out his Twitter. Real John F. O'Donnell or the real JFOD on Twitter. And you can get all his information there. You can sign up for his email. Anyway, he does fun stuff.
Thank you, Nick. I was gonna ask where that pair character description is, because I love your pair character descriptions. There's a pair character drinking Japanese whiskey and soda, watching all the vegan documentaries while eating black bean burgers and cashew cheesy mac. Love it.
He's been saving that all week.
I fucking love it.
He started writing that Monday after the last live stream. And thank you, Nick. We really appreciate it.
Also, if any of y'all are in the DC area, I highly recommend New Vegan, spelled NU vegan. So fucking phenomenal. It's a vegan, as you might have guessed, vegan Black-owned restaurant in DC, and it's fucking amazing. It's so good. So yeah, if you're in the area, I definitely recommend them. I would kill people for their mac and cheese. Yeah, it's that good.
We're wrapping on 1 second. I have to answer the question about JFOD's Twitter. It's the real JFOD on Twitter.
You're so
there
helpful.
You go. Someone asked me to write it. So,
well, thank you all so much for what?
I thought Kinky finally told us what her question was, but that wasn't it.
Could be a they or a he.
Oh, sorry. Yes, could be a he. I see Kinky saying Eleanor's right, so maybe that was the
is that a question?
The comment.
If it's a statement, fuck yeah, thank you. But thank you all for hanging out with us for this hour. And again, all of the donations that you've thrown down are going to Black Alliance for Peace, and we really appreciate y'all bringing your questions and your comments, and yeah, it's always a good time. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
We will see you. We'll probably be here next Sunday, but join the email list to find out. Text the word redacted. Thank you, B. Text the word redacted. Spell out redacted. REDACTED to 33777 in America. You can also sign up at leecamp.com. All right. Keep fighting.
Act out.